Lights on. Testing. Yeah. And kind of dragging it out, but this is how we scheduled. Bradley is literally insane.
I feel like doesn't make sense.
Huh? I've been better.
Uh-oh, you feeling bad?
I just got,
It's like,
it
like blows my mind.
I mean, he's making Scott and Lauren look bad.
I know.
It's crazy.
Houses in Fort Carolina. And he's like, oh, well, the wife wanted something a little more expensive. So he's like, let's move it.
I wonder if he's ever gonna like
So
slow
it's like,
down. Doesn't seem like he
Yeah.
And the wife was like, oh, this is the one. So
I wouldn't.
text me
that
like
shit's so
5
well, I mean, like not by
I'd try to do it for as many months as possible.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, but like by no fault of his own.
Right.
You know, he's just gonna sell all the people he knows.
Some people just want you to open the door. That's what I'm kind of trying.
I got a slightly last night, cash buyer, just old town,
Yeah.
hundreds. And, out there and there's a lot of man, okay. You come decide on what all people extra on. They got my cash for down payment, maybe.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, by the time we have that HOA and everything. I'm like, really? You never know, though, I mean, because somebody can. That's right.
Finally, he texted me last night at about 7:45, and she goes, "How far away from Green Cove Springs are you?" And I was like, "It's about an hour from my house." And she goes, "We really want to see this house. Can you make it out here right now?" I was like, "No, I can't do that." So we can see it tomorrow.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to the book club. We're still on Atomic Habits with James Clear. We're actually today we're going to kind of recap chapters 1 through 14, all the way up to the last part of the book. And then for next week and the week after, we'll be going over that last part. The last, I think it's chapters 5 through 15 through 20, we'll do next week and the week after. So to kind of just start out the book in 3 sentences. I kind of like this, a really simple breakdown as to what I'm reading. So, an atomic habit is a regular practice or routine that is not small and easy to do. It is also the source of power, a component of the system of compound growth. Bad habits repeat themselves again and again, not because you don't change, but because you have the wrong system for change. And small and first will compound into remarkable results if you're willing to stick with them for years. The 5 big ideas in this book. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. If you want better results, then forget about setting goals, focus on your system instead. The most effective way to change your habits is to focus not on what you want to achieve, but on who you wish to become. The 4 laws of behavior change are a simple set of rules we can use to build better habits. 1, make it obvious. 2, make it attractive. 3, make it easy. And 4, make it satisfying. The 4th one is the one we're going to get into next week. We're going to kind of rehash the first 3 today. And the last 5, the 5th of the big ideas is environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. And we talked a little bit about that last week, and we'll get more into it. So the first chapter, the surprising power of teeny habits. Success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. So basically what that's saying is if you're not having the results that you want right now, it's okay, because if you're doing the right things in small little habits and little things in your day that you know are putting you on the right trajectory, the results are going to come. If you're not doing those things that are putting you on the right trajectory, the results are going to stay the same or compound in the wrong direction and end up putting you far away from where you're actually trying to be. It was that small example of like, if an airplane is like 2 degrees off, it's going to end up in a completely different airport than the one it's actually trying to go to. So you want to make sure that, you know, your trajectory is heading. Chapter 3, how to build better habits in 4 simple steps. Whenever you want to change your behavior, ask yourself, how can I make it obvious? How can I make it attractive? How can I make it easy? And how can I make it satisfying? A habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. We talked about this last week. You got to do it hundreds to thousands of times before it's really a routine. There's no magical, do this, go to the gym for 21 days in a row and it's a habit. No, you got to do these things for a long time before it really becomes part of you. So any habit can be broken down into a feedback loop that involves 4 steps: the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. The 4 laws of behavior change are simply is always to just think about those 4 rules. How can I make it obvious? How can I make it attractive? And how can I make it easy? And how can I make it satisfying? So I'm going to start, I'm going to skip over 4 and go to 5. Chapter 5, the best way to start a new habit. This is the first law of behavior changes, to make it obvious. Many people think that they lack the motivation when what they really lack is clarity. Clarity on where they're trying to go, what their goal actually is, and what it's going to take to actually get there. It's not necessarily the motivation. I mean, I think we all probably want to make $1 million. How do we make $1 million is going to come down to all the small habits in your day-to-day life. So there's something called the Diderot effect, and it states that obtaining a new possession often creates a spiral of consumption that leads to additional purchases. This is an interesting thing, and I think the Diderot effect's not always I know that it literally pertains to shopping and purchasing things, but you can look at it in a broader sense. Like if you take on a new habit, it could create a spiral of wanting to create more new habits. So there's that same type of effect. If you start to do one new habit, it's working for you. You're like, oh my gosh, that's working. I want to start doing more new habits and see what you can kind of create this spiral effect into your life. This is the chapter where we talked about habit stacking. I'm sure you guys remember the worksheets that we did. So after a current habit, I will do a new habit. The simple one I think that I threw out there and that has actually really been working for me. I was trying to get into a habit of taking my vitamins every day, and I haven't missed a day since I did that worksheet. Literally after I brush my teeth, I take my vitamins. It works every day, and ever since I wrote it down, like there's a power in writing things down. So I think it helped me. And then chapter 6, motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Small changes in context can lead to large changes in behavior over time. Every habit is initiated by a cue. We are more likely to notice cues that stand out. Make the cues of good habits obvious in your environment. Gradually, your habits become associated not with a single trigger, but with the entire context surrounding the behavior. The context becomes the cue. Chapter 7, the secret of self-control. The inversion of the first law of behavior changes to make it invisible. Once a habit is formed, it is unlikely to be forgotten. People with high self-control tend to spend less time in tempting situations. It's easier to avoid temptation than to resist it. So one of the most practical ways to eliminate a bad habit is to reduce exposure to the cue that causes it. So if you know that you have a bad habit of maybe turning the TV on right when you get home, what's that cue that's causing you to do that? Is it that like the second you walk into your house, you see the TV and you just had a long day and you have to turn that TV on? Maybe the best solution is for a few weeks to put the TV in a different room, maybe put it in a guest bedroom or something, so that like you have to go in there and make an effort to actually watch the TV. But yeah, this is just a weird random example. But of course, like trying to figure out a way to change that cue. So like whatever's causing you to go into that habit, how can you change that? It's easier to build new habits in an environment because you in a new environment because you are not fighting against old cues. I think the example I used previously when we talked about this was like when you come here and you start working here, you're in this brand new environment and they're asking you to create all these new habits. It's a lot of work, but was creating those habits hard? Not really, because you come every day and these are the things that you have to do here every day. You've got to sit down at your computer, do your Zillow updates, make your phone calls, have your conversations, set your appointments. If you're brand new, you've got to watch your videos and do all that. And I think those are all new habits that we created, but they didn't feel hard to create those habits. It felt like we were in a good new environment where those habits were easy to kind of take on. And I think that's the best example. Like for me, like if I wanted to create something at home where I could work better from home, I would have to create an environment at home that was conducive to that. Right now, I don't really have that. So I just choose to do most of my work from here or after my kid goes to bed. But yeah, so moving to chapter 7, the secret to self-control. The inversion of the first law of behavior change is to make it invisible. Once a habit is formed, it's unlikely to be forgotten. And people with high self-control tend to spend less time in tempting situations. It's easier to avoid temptation than to resist it. One of the most practical ways to eliminate a bad habit is to reduce exposure to the cue that causes it. Self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one. So it's kind of rehashing what I just talked about. Create that new environment so that you don't have to use self-control. Because they're saying self-control is just a short-term strategy. Ultimately, you're going to end up going back to putting that TV on right when you come home or whatever the issue is. So really change that environment so that you can create a solid new habit that lasts with you and isn't forgotten. Chapter 8, how to make a habit irresistible. The second law of behavior change is to make it attractive. The more attractive an opportunity is, the more likely it is to become habit forming. Habits are a dopamine-driven feedback loop. I'm sure everybody here knows what dopamine is. It's the same reason why you want to keep checking Instagram for likes or all that stuff. You're just looking for that kind of release of chemicals in your brain that makes you feel good. So it's knowing that, you know, forming a habit can be a dopamine-driven feedback loop. So knowing that about ourselves, I think it's really important to just recognize, again, recognize the environment, recognize the people in your lives, the content you're taking in, and you know, that way you can really try to make habits that are more attractive for you. Chapter 10, how to find and fix the cause of your bad habits. So, great question. What are our bad habits? We don't always know. So the inversion of the second law of behavior change is to make it unattractive. Every behavior has a surface level craving and a deeper underlying motives. Your habits are modern day solutions to ancient desires. So the cause of your habits is actually the predication that precedes them. The predication leads to a feeling. Habits are attractive when we associate them with positive feelings and unattractive when we associate them with negative feelings. So create a motivational ritual by doing something you enjoy immediately before a difficult habit. Let's think of an example. Maybe a difficult habit might be trying to start going to the gym again in the morning or at all, anytime in the day? How can you make that more enjoyable if you're out of shape? Going for the first time is never the fun time to go. The first time is always pretty rough for the first few weeks. So how can you really start to make that more attractive? Maybe you can create some sort of motivational ritual where you put your headphones on and listen to a certain song that gets you really amped up and makes you want to go work out. Maybe you put a YouTube video on of a fitness influencer that makes you feel bad about yourself, and that motivates you to go. Who knows? But create some sort of motivational ritual that gets you inspired. If you struggle to come into work every day to make your 100 phone calls because that's a huge number and you dread doing it, think of something that can really motivate you to want to do that. Think about your why. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? And really, think of something that while you're at home in the morning, maybe it's like while you have a cup of coffee, you watch a Tom Ferry video to get re-inspired about the market. Or maybe, just think of something that you can do in the mornings to kind of get you re-inspired to come in for the day. Chapter 11, walk slowly but never backward. The third law of behavior change is to make it easy. The most effective form of learning is practice, not planning, and focus on taking action, not being in motion. Habit formation is the process by which a behavior becomes progressively more automatic through repetition. The amount of time you have been performing a habit is not as important as the number of times you have performed it. This is what I was saying, where it's not about 21 days of doing something. It's thousands of repetitions before it really is ingrained in you and you won't forget this habit. You'll keep doing it. Chapter 12, the law of least effort. Human behavior follows the law of least effort. We will naturally gravitate toward the option that requires the least amount of work. Create an environment where doing the right thing is as easy as possible. Reduce the friction associated with good behaviors. When friction is low, habits are easy. Increase the friction associated with bad behaviors. When friction is high, habits are difficult. So if you have a bad habit of, someone give me a bad habit. If you have a bad habit of biting your nails, okay, I used to do this and I stopped cold turkey just by deciding I was going to stop. So good example, but I'm trying to think of maybe how you can increase the resistance on that. Maybe suggestion.
I did this right when I first started at home. I went and got a just clear gel coat. I spent money on it. Now I didn't want to ruin that.
I was going to say, yeah, maybe you get your nails done more. So you've spent money on it. You don't want to bite them now. Or I know they make things for this where you can put stuff on your nails so they taste bad. So then you don't bite your nails, but that's friction, right? You don't want to go and bite your nails if there's something on them that tastes bad. So yeah, good point. Great example. Now, prime your environment to make future actions easier. So I think, yeah, we'll just use the same example. If you don't want to bite your fingernails, how can you prime your environment to make future actions easier? Do what he said. Do what Colin said. Go get your nails done. Get a gel coat on your nails, even if it's a clear one. Men can go get their nails done. Pamper yourselves, guys. No big deal. Chapter 13, how to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. Every day, there are a handful of moments that deliver an outsized impact. James refers to these little choices as decisive moments. Decisive moments set the options available to your future self. A habit must be established before it can be improved. Habits can be completed in a few seconds, but continue to impact your behavior for minutes or hours afterwards. And many habits occur at decisive moments, choices that are like a fork in the road and either send you in the direction of a productive day or an unproductive one. The 2-minute rule states, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. The more you ritualize the beginning of a process, the more likely it becomes that you can slip into a state of deep focus that is required to do great things. Standardize before you optimize. You can improve a habit that doesn't. You can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. So he's saying, start the habit. You can always make better at it. You can always improve it, but let's just start it. And the more you ritualize the beginning of it, those first 2 minutes. And I think the best example that I use for this, I think James Clear actually uses this example all the time too. But if you want to be a runner, you're not going to create a habit of being a runner. You're going to create a habit of getting up, putting your running shoes on, and walking out the door. That's 2 minutes. If you do that every morning or every day you get home from work or whatever, right before you like to run before bed or whatever your timing is, all you got to do is create a habit of putting the running shoes on, walking out the door, closing the door behind you. What are you going to do at that point? Are you going to probably you're going to go for a run, or you're going to do something. You've got your running shoes on, you're active. Maybe you go for a walk that day or whatever it is, but you're creating the habit of putting the running shoes on, getting outside and doing it. So chapter 14, this is where we're going to end today. So how to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. Use the inversion of the third law of behavior change, which is to make it difficult. A commitment device is a choice you make in the present that locks in better behavior in the future. The ultimate way to lock in future behavior is to automate your habits. One-time choices like buying a better mattress or enrolling in an automatic savings plan are single actions that automate your future habits and deliver increasing returns over time. Using technology to automate your habits is the most reliable and effective way to guarantee the right behavior. So we're going to stop there today. Does anyone have any feedback from the book? Just a quick show of hands. Who's reading? Be 100% honest, because we really need this feedback. Who's reading the book? Audible.
Yeah.
Same thing. So if you're listening, or that counts. So just a couple people. For the future, this would be a much more beneficial experience for everybody if we're reading the book. So I ask you guys, since we have to be here, there's only a few of you guys in mentorship still, but we do need participation in this group. For the next book, let's try to all start it together at the same time and make sure that we stay on the same page and we can all come to class and actually contribute that way. And we're not going to do the next book over 8 weeks, so we don't have to rehash chapters every week. But yeah, definitely, let's read the book. Let's come in. There's so much we can benefit from these books in our day-to-day lives, not just at work, but in every aspect of our life. So I love that you guys are here. I love the participation that I do get, but I think we can do better. Cool. Thanks, guys.